Okay, we are live now. Okay, so we're just gonna wait for people to join us. Our session starts at 4 o'clock, but I guess before we start, we just chit chat and wait in the lobby area. How are you, Ivan, today?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Ivan, can you hear me?
Lagging. You're lagging.
Lagging, ah?
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Pro-
I'm okay.
producer on hand. Are we lagging? Are we good? Can you hear us loud and clear?
Now you're okay.
Okay. Could be the Bluetooth.
Okay.
So yeah. No lag on Ian's side. So it could be the Bluetooth headset trying to pair and sync up.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So anyway, so it's a Sunday, 11th of July. Today's biggest topic, I guess, is to do with the football and how England is going to win the win the cup. It's coming home, Mike. It's coming home.
Is it coming home?
I don't know. What do you think? Will England?
I don't know. I'm not watching it lah.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow cannot function after that. yeah. How are you, Ivan?
I'm good. Been keeping myself
Good,
busy. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I also have been keeping myself busy lah. Doing a bit of community work. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your food bag in Sungai Lom.
Yeah. We started that. I think we have already actually given food packs to over 1,000 people already in the past week.
1,000 people.
Yeah, amazing. Yes, 1,000 people, and it's quite sad because the people that come on when they see toothpaste their eyes actually light up. So even the basic necessities they don't have it. So actually it's quite sad. So guys out there, if you can help the food bank around your area. And volunteer if you can. But of course, keep yourself very safe. That's my advice.
Yeah. I've got a few requests from my friends who are doing food banks around the area. Just message me and I immediately put some 100 ringgit into the account. And I think
Yep.
the help the government can do, unfortunately, cannot go through the targeted areas. And that's where I think people like yourself, Mike, and my friends who are doing this are important, because you guys know at the ground level that's what's happening. It's very important for us to do that. Okay. So anyway, we are coming to our 4 o'clock mark. We're going to start the show right now with an intro. And today's topic, it's about rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and front-wheel drive. A topic which always interests me because I'm always confused. What car do I get? And I think on the battle of those three, people say, rear wheel, all wheel, So you're gonna talk once and for all with Ivan. So let's get the show on the road, Welcome back to another episode. How many weeks has it been, Mike, that you have been live during MCO? I forgot. Is it episode 5?
I think it has been. I think it's week 5. I think. Yeah.
Week 5.
It's week 5. Yeah. Looking at 5. Yeah. And I'd like to thank Ivan for coming on board with us again today. On this Sunday afternoon. Taking your time away from your family and actually, enlightening all of us. On front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive. And Ivan is a very good person to tell us about it.
I distinctly, you mentioned something about durian. That's why I agreed to be here.
Okay. But your one is to such a high standards. I do not know who to order from. Because you know all the best sellers in the marketplace.
If you want contact, give you
Because
contact.
Yeah, I think that was John, John Kelvin Koo here. The durian man. Hi, guys. Yeah, so, yeah. So it's a very high standard. To let me see what we can do. Yeah.
But I guess durian also, it's like, I think the analogy is, like if you take Musang King and then you go to other durians and you're like, oh, this is not as good. And then, but all durian has got a certain flavor to it. And the same way, I guess, about our topic today, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and rear-wheel drive, they all got a certain personality to it. No one durian is that, no matter how good you may think it is, it's just how you eat it and how you enjoy that particular taste. So to all you don't know what Ivan is a king when it comes to the car scene in Malaysia. He's been a professional rail driver. He's got a successful business doing car events, and if you see all the media drive that we do, most of them you see Ivan's face there. He's a big BMW guy, although he's got his Suzuki in the back and he's got his Honda S1000. We're going to a quick clip about Ivan, and now after this, we're going to officially start the show at 4 o'clock about rear wheel, all wheel, and front wheel drive. Welcome back. So that's Ivan. Ivan, Gymkhana. What's Gymkhana, by the way? For those people who are not familiar with Gymkhana.
It's taking your car to the gym, basically.
you take your body to the gym, it becomes stronger. But will this make your car stronger?
Yeah. So basically, you are going to so they set up an obstacle course.
Yeah.
Sort of, and then you got to navigate through the course. So normally the organizers, like GRA, they will try to complicate and confuse you. So you need to have good memory, and you need to be able to look far ahead and decide what you want to do when the time comes. So there's a lot of forward planning, memorization, and the ability to use the handbrake is basically a requirement. Yeah. So
and do you know the track before you go to the event, or on the event the track is shown to you?
On the event, 10 minutes before the start, normally they will give you the course layout. Then you go and do a 10-minute walk around to remember the 1 minute plus run. And it's actually quite difficult if you are not used to seeing cones and memorizing if you are to be on the left of the cone or right of the cone. You must be able to understand driving so that you are able to know that if I have to turn that corner, I need to brake 20 meters before so that my car can then slow down enough. And so that requires a lot of planning and sticking to the plan when you drive, and then review it later, and then adjust the plan and go out again. So, and normally you have 3 runs to get it perfect. So you need to be really on the ball. So you are actually mentally driving the track even before you even start at the start line. Yeah.
And that's why I say when you go to the gym, it's true, because it's more gym, not a gym for the car, but gym for yourself as a driver to really hone your skills. And I'm really impressed. And I see those guys in the Miata and the small little cars, and they do these turns. It's epic, really, really epic. You never knew the car can do so that it's just and it's a really position. They could enter the cones, and wow, it's amazing. So, Mike, we're going to enter some get some comments
from
people.
You guys get to know your car better as well. Sorry.
So we got Gary Chin here saying, "Hey, Thana, Ivan and Mike. Hey, Gary, thank you for joining us." We got Sean Coe in the house. Hey, Sean. We got Brian Williams, always telling us to please do take care of yourself from COVID. Yes, by all means, stay home, enjoy the show, and when things are better, we'll meet up for car drives and do stuff. We got Brian Williams saying front, what, FF or FR, pros and cons. What's FF? Front facing.
Front wheel and
Front wheel and rear
front
wheel.
wheel drive and
Okay,
front
so
engine.
Front
okay.
engine,
Front
front drive.
engine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we'll talk to
Yeah.
Katie Yap. Hi, hey Yap, thanks for joining us. We've got Ocean in the house. Hey guys, we got Ivan Khong saying Bojole. So Bojo is what? You never invite, is it? Is that what it means?
Yeah. I had to
Yeah.
discover your Facebook.
Okay, we got Derek. Hey Derek,
Yeah.
how are you? We've got Mugilan saying first time watching live. Yes, please come and join us. It's every Sunday at 4 o'clock. We hang out here. We talk about
Yes.
car tuning, because car tuning is not only about just
Yep.
tuning your ECUs. It's about handling, suspensions, radio, everything put it together, and you will know a lot by tuning in. And yeah, we're gonna have fun this session. And today we are talking about. Oh, he's talking about front wheel drive. Yeah, I understand. Okay, no problem. Okay, not bonjour. It's bojo. Okay,
Bonjour. Bonjour.
bonjour. Okay. So
Bonjour.
getting down to the topic today. Today it's about front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive. I'm probably the least experienced among the three here, of in terms of driving cars. Mike obviously drives so many cars on all the car he tunes. Ivan Kong is a champion, legend, and today we're going
Yep.
to learn about them. I guess to begin with, is there a champion among the three? I think the first question is people say like, oh, one car is better than the other, and is there a champion between the three?
It all depends on what you prefer and
Mm.
how your driving style is. Some people prefer four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Some prefer front-wheel drive. Some prefer rear-wheel drive. Each has got its own strengths and weaknesses. But me, I grew up in the 1980s and 1990s. So therefore, I mean, when I got to driving, I started driving at 14 years old in a front-wheel drive car, and then I graduated 16 years old to a rear-wheel drive car. So ever since then, back to front-wheel drive, back to four-wheel drive, competed in all kinds of disciplines in all kinds of configurations. Um, in the slippery conditions, I prefer four-wheel drive. But if I cannot get a four-wheel drive, my second preference is front-wheel drive. And then only rear-wheel drive is when I want to have fun, not necessarily the being the fastest. But of course, there are cars like mid-engine rear-wheel drive that are quite fast, which I also enjoy. So it all depends on what you want to do. So in my garage, I have a combination of all the configurations except the mid-engine rear-wheel drive, because still yet to find one that I can afford, and you know.
It's interesting you say that the word graduated, and makes me wonder is that if I guess all these cars are there's an element of graduation of knowing them. What would you say should be first time driver car? Should it be a front wheel, rear wheel, or if you could choose?
If you could choose, if I had to tutor a mentor to take after
Hmm.
what I do,
Hmm.
I would start with a rear-wheel drive, because it demands a lot more from the driver as compared to a front-wheel drive driver. So
Mm.
it will teach you skid control. It can teach you how to correct your oversteer, how you induce a oversteer, and then when you jump to a front-wheel drive, provided you can adapt, it'll be faster, because then you're not afraid of the tail coming out in the oversteer situation, because you're used to it. So I have taught some of my drivers that work part time for me. Some of the instructors never drive a rear wheel drive. Once I convinced them to go and try a rear wheel drive. I mean, they are very fast on the track. But once they try driving a rear wheel drive, then when they get back into a front wheel drive car, go around the track, they are faster because they are more confident. Because they are not afraid that going around a turn and the tail comes out. Because in a rear wheel drive, this is normal for us. You just do a bit of opposite
Yep.
correction and
Mm.
then you straighten and then
Mm.
so they become better drivers after that.
I always hear this phrase that I think um, if you lose control on a rear wheel drive car, the driver is more confident of taking back control. But if you lose control on a front wheel drive car, the driver is just praying like he can get back control because it's not so. I mean, it's not easy to gain back control in a front wheel drive car. Would you say that?
I no, I think it is easier to control a front wheel drive car because it's simpler. It's a
Okay.
simpler configuration. It's simpler to just do it, but it's counterintuitive also because in a front wheel drive car, as you turn into a corner, if you encounter understeer, normal person's reaction is just to lift off.
Yep.
This applies to front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive. It's the same, so it's simple. But when it comes to oversteer situation, when you're turning into a corner and the tail comes out, even when you counter, you need to get back on the power. So that's counterintuitive of what you need to do compared to a rear wheel drive. Yeah. So I would say in this generation, in the last 10 to 15 years, you have having a lot of front wheel drive cars. Everybody in after our generation grew up with front wheel drive cars, hardly any rear wheel drive cars. So there comes to a point whereby they are more used to front wheel drive car. So if you put them in a rear wheel drive car and you let them loose without stability control, they probably crash the car a bit. But that is 95% of the population, you know. So but it takes more skill to drive a rear wheel drive car than a front wheel drive car, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess same with the GTR. We just crashed it recently, isn't it? Last weekend.
Yeah, it's a rear wheel drive. It's not a GTR, it's a GTT.
GT,
So
is it? Okay.
yeah, it updated the engine. So yeah, I suspect that the tires were worn out or wasn't or had just had too much power. Yeah. You don't give a newcomer who had just started or never experienced a 400 horsepower car and then that is just a
Yeah.
recipe for trouble. Yeah. So if I mean I grew up and my parents didn't allow me to drive a powerful car until I could handle it, and during that time when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, I thought I was invisible. I thought I was the god of driving. But yeah, after experiencing just a 200 horsepower car, that was quite a handful. Yeah. So if there are any new or any parents watching this and your son or your daughter says that dad, can I just take out the Ferrari or your Golf R with 400 horsepower, I would say no until they go and attend advanced driving school with that car. Then you are able to better get used to the car. Yeah. It's
And I
not a
guess
matter of getting used to the car, it's a matter of conditioning your mental abilities to be able to handle the speed. Yeah.
I guess also like if you think about older cars, when it's a 200 horsepower on an older car, it's lighter and the power delivery is different. Now the cars are heavier and more systems in place there. It make you feel cocky, make you feel too confident. And when you're confident is when that thing happens. Like you lose
Correct.
1 second.
Correct.
Smash the
So
wall.
so to me, if someone says that, I can let Sepang in 2 minutes 35 seconds, I say good. Do you do it with stability control off or on? Only when you can do it with stability control off, 2 minutes 35 seconds, then you come and tell me that you're a good driver.
So Mike, going to you, Mike, what has been your most scariest, I guess, losing control moment in any particular car?
Uh, Scariest moment. I don't know. I don't push it to the point where where I actually, completely lose control of the car. I would say I'm just a flying tense driver, rather than 10-10. And the only place that, we really push it is, in a very safe environment, and in the Gymkhana days, that's where we push it to the limit. Mhm. I think if you are trying to push your car to the limit out in the open roads, it's not, it's not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
So we're going to go to today's topic, and we're going to start with a video. We've got a video here. I want to show you all guys, and it's quite interesting. This is to do with. We're going to start with a rear-wheel drive car, and as we go through, Ivan will explain to us what's happening here.
Car layout. Engine in the front, power in the back. Because of this, rear drive is well balanced. For track work, this is the ideal configuration for two-wheel drive. Acceleration out of corners naturally transfers weight to the driven wheels in the back, improving traction as we roll on the gas leaving a corner.
Can we pause here?
Here's what's tricky about rear drive.
One
It
second.
swings.
Yep.
Okay, so he's talking about the engine placed in the front and transfers power to the rear. What he failed to mention was that the front wheels. Okay, so what determines traction in the car is basically just your four wheels, right? Now, in the front end, in any rear-wheel drive car, the front tires are meant only to steer, right? So your traction that is available is about the size of your palm. That is the contact patch of the tire touching the ground. So if you see the tire and it touches the ground, you will see that it's only about the size of my palm. Okay. So obviously, the bigger the tire, the wider the tire, the what profile, traction profile, the contact patch will be bigger. But irregardless of that, let's assume that is okay, the size of a palm. So the amount of friction that you have on your palm is only determined by the size, right? So if you are to steer, that means you're giving friction to be able to steer the car. You only use the contact to steer the car, and then on the rear tires, the contact patch are the same, and the only time that the only task it has to do is just to push the car, just to drive the car forward, right? Or to reduce the speed by pushing counter force to the friction, to the forward momentum. So if you have front tires doing nothing but steer, rear tires do nothing but push, then you got the perfect situation. Okay, there's no sharing of tasks. Now, let's go on.
Ways. A little power causes understeer, a light front. A lot of power causes oversteer, wheel spin. But also a sudden liftoff causes oversteer, a light rear. And a bad downshift will cause the fastest spin you ever saw, locked rear. Despite rear-wheel drive's pitfalls, they are instantly forgivable for the fact that it allows classic power oversteer and drifting. Woo! Yeah! And if you couldn't tell, I like drifting. So let's start with the rear-wheel drive.
Okay.
The technique for cornering on a rear drive goes like this.
All right. So you could see that as he was taking around the corner, if the tail stepped out, he could control it. So this normally doesn't happen in a front-wheel drive car. So if you go into corner too fast and you power, what happens? The front pushes.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So the car understeers. And what do you do to correct the understeer? You lift off the throttle, because the moment is you seeing that the corner is going that way, but you are going this way. So what happens? You lift off the throttle, okay? And then you just normally people will just turn more, but that's actually the wrong thing. So you actually have to turn less. Yeah, because the slip angle, once the tire has gone past a certain point, the car just understeers, right?
Mm.
So understeer can happen in rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, four wheel drive. Okay,
Mm.
all right, because the front wheels are sharing the load from not only turning but also powering. So imagine you have two glasses, and the glass on my this side represents traction for turning. The glass on this side represents traction for powering. Okay, you can only fill one glass full at one time. So whether I want to do full on steering
Okay.
or full on powering, if you
You can't
are
do
to do
both.
both, if you are to do both, you have surpassed the traction limit of that tire, of that contact
Mm.
patch, right?
Mm.
So what you can do is you can share half. So by less steering angle,
Mm.
then I can put more throttle. That's for front wheel drive. Yeah.
Mm.
So rear wheel drive don't share this thing. Front tires are just meant for steering. Rear tires are just meant for powering. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you have a low powered rear wheel drive car, then there's less tendency for the rear to oversteer because you don't have enough power to overwhelm
To
the
push them.
correct the traction of the tires on the tire. So so that's rear wheel drive in essence. So if you drive a rear wheel drive around the track and you put too much power on the rear wheels will then start wheel spinning, and then the car will start slipping,
Sleeping,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, when the car starts slipping, that's when you need to have a bit more skill to do your
Counter
counter
steer.
correction,
Mm.
counter steer, correct?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that it's only in the event that either your steering angle is too sharp or your power is too much, correct? Those are the two things we kind of make a rear wheel drive car lose that
Yeah, so if too
control.
much
Yeah.
steering angle is understeer,
Mm.
if too much power, then it is oversteer.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Mm. So 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 when it comes to that is dry. So when it comes to wet, then your friction levels on the road are lower. Therefore, then your threshold on your traction is then lower, so smaller. So
Mm.
imagine
Mm.
if this is a dry traction, your wet traction is so much smaller. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a comment here from Brian Williams saying my Kambara is rear wheel drive only.
Isn't the Kambara four-wheel drive?
Yeah, all wheel drive. It's all wheel drive, isn't it? It's like I think automatically it
Yeah, it's
goes
all-wheel drive.
all wheel
Yeah,
drive.
it's all drive, and I think it's a fixed 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't remember what the center differential is because the
Mm.
determination of traction to all-wheel drive car is dependent on the center differential.
Oh, he's mod. He's right. He's modded. Yeah.
Okay. So
Question from Brian
is
once again.
Connected the front.
Regards to Ivan, understeer applying brake will make it worse in wet road.
yes, correct.
Oh,
Mm.
oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and this understeer, if you understeering whether it's wet or dry, if you hit the brakes, it becomes worse because a tire that is locked that is skidding on the road has got less friction, got less traction than a tire that is rolling.
Mm. Mm. But I guess
Yeah.
in those cases, it's just more about how do you ease off the angle, how do you ease off the speed without causing too
Yeah,
much of weight shift, and it's about
correct.
being yeah.
So what is the cause of understeer? So you have the one glass that is for steering, one glass is for power, right? So let's say lah. So if the water that you pour, the traction that you have surpasses the steering portion, what happens? The tire starts to slip. So you need to bring that level down. How do you bring the level down? By lifting off the throttle by letting the car slow down naturally. Or if you are a very good driver, you can feather you can feather touch the brake just to slow the vehicle down even further. Or you can reduce the steering angle. So by reducing the steering angle, you are increasing the traction availability, right?
So when you apply brake, actually, just a question out of curiosity, does the brake being applied when you apply a brake? Does it apply to all four corners, or does it apply to the front or rear? How is the biasness when you apply 50% or 100%? You know, how does that work actually?
Depending on the car, but usually it's around 70% to the front wheels, and then about 20 to 30 to the rear wheels. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So by default, I guess braking is bad because you kind of lock up the front, you know?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to manage this. So that's why new cars that comes with the 4-channel ABS, with the pairing with the stability control system, they can individually brake individual wheel to be able to, so they know that where you are turning your steering wheel, and when you apply the brakes, then it knows that which tire gets the more braking effort than the rest.
So this is what
Oh.
this is what we all-wheel drive or just
4-channel.
four
No,
channel?
doesn't matter. 4-channel ABS coupled with the stability control system. So if you are turning into a corner, okay, and you press the brake, and right, so if the car understeers, it will brake this more to be able to bring the car around. If the car oversteers, it will brake this more to be able to make the car understeer, induce understeer to counteract the oversteer effect.
Okay. So we're gonna just move on to the clip again and just continue on. It's an interesting clip.
Brake hard and straight, and then very lightly as you turn in, rotating as you aim for the apex. Then ease onto the gas, transferring weight back, then roll it on as you straighten out the wheel right on the edge.
Okay, stop there. Okay, so he mentioned to turn in gently. And then once you go past the apex, he said roll it on. That means put the throttle on as you unwind the steering wheel. You unwind the steering wheel, that means you are progressively getting on the power more, and then you are straightening the wheel. Remember the thing about the two cups?
Yeah.
Steering or powering, right? So if your front wheels are, irregardless of whether it's front wheel or rear wheel drive, if your front wheels are turning, that means you are then using more. The more you turn, the more traction is required from the tire, right? Right? So you need to have more traction, right? But then if you power, what happens? You are then putting more speed on it. So then your car won't be able to turn. That's the only reason why at 90-degree corner, you can, when you are turning at almost full load, you cannot power. Okay? Because there's not enough traction to be able to give you that kind of friction ability for you to turn. So you need to be able to unwind the steering wheel to straight. And as you are doing that, you are increasing the power from 20 to 40 to 60 to 100%.
So question, Ivan. So I guess track conditions are different compared to real life condition.
No.
Same track, no, same.
Same.
So even on normal roads, you're trying to make sure you have the highest amount of grip by playing with that. If it's 70-30, 50-50, 20-80, you're trying to make sure the steering and the
Power.
throttle.
Yep. This is easily shown when you go for a drive in the wet. You know, same corner at the same speed in the dry, but you take it in the wet, you turn, the car refuses to turn. The car will start understeering. It's because you got less friction available on the wheel, right? Same as when you are in the dry, if you are very powerful rear wheel drive, when you hit the power, you get a bit of wheel spin, then you go off. That also relates. So the amount of grip available on the on the tire for steering has to be shared with amount of grip available for powering or the speed. So that's why you can travel 200 kilometer in a straight line, but you cannot do 200 kilometer in a 90-degree turn. You understand?
You can't.
Yeah, correct. It's all
How
basics
fast
on.
how fast will they go on like F1? I mean, honest. Even then, it's like
Okay. Yeah. So when we do our training on Sepang circuit, and they normally drive a 3 Series, right? So the
mm,
car is provided by BMW Malaysia.
mm,
Uh, so they come for the course, and we take them around Sepang Turn 1, right? Sepang Turn
yep,
1 is a very long right-hander
yep,
with the apex in the middle. So, but normally we just hug the corner. It's easier
mm,
because it's
mm,
so much easier for newcomers to just visualize. As you come to turn 1, I just turn in, I just hug the corner, because the difference between a BMW 3 Series going at 64 kilometers per hour is not much different from a Ferrari going around the same corner at maybe 67 kilometers per hour. So there's only like a 3 kilometer per hour
mm.
difference, right?
Okay.
So even the GTR is going roughly around with the normal tires. I don't talk about super sticky tires and all, just normal tires, normal road tires. You look at maybe 68, 67. So they vary between 2 or 3 kilometers only difference.
Mm,
Don't
mm, mm,
compare
mm.
F1 cars, because those are not
Yeah.
cars. Those
Correct.
are
Yeah.
just uh, that's just an aeroplane on the ground, yeah, because they got
Correct.
so
Correct.
much wings
Yeah.
and downforce, yeah.
Mm,
So you're looking at
Yeah.
that. So 1 million ringgit car goes around that turn 1 is not much different from a normal sports saloon going around that turn 1. So it's only
mm,
about two
mm,
or 3 kilometers per hour different.
mm, mm.
Yeah,
And I think that's just where people, a lot of young drivers, like, oh, my car can do so much on the corners they whack, and a lot of times it's more of luck. They just happen to be on the road when they whack the
correct,
corners.
correct,
Like,
correct. Because you can't deny, you can't go against the law of physics. That's all.
mm,
And
mm,
and you ask Mike what was his scariest experience losing control. My experience was I was a instructor for a supercar brand. So I had
mm,
to sit with customers for 11 days around Sepang. So
mm,
I was in charge of this car, and we had a collaboration between customers from that invited high net worth individuals that
mm,
came for the drive. So, and then there were empty slots, so the salespeople could actually, the people in charge of the accounts could actually, like bankers, tellers, whatever,
mm,
salespeople from the bank could actually drive the car. So there was this old lady that we'll say 40 plus, 50, got in the car, and then she said, so I was told, she's looking at me. So I was told that I could drive this car in Sepang and take this corner, turn 1 at 200 kilometers per hour. I looked at her. Yeah,
Whoa.
just because it was a premium supercar,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and I just
Mm,
said no, you can't do that.
mm.
And we were doing about 180, approaching to the turn 1. I like brake. Then she was telling me, hey, I thought I no need to brake, no, no, you need to brake. Brake. And of course, first timers on the track, they don't brake hard enough, you know, because so I had to pull the handbrake and then bring the car to slow lah, so that we could
Yeah.
make and not kill myself.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So yeah.
My most scariest moment was the way I got my license was, I mean, I sat in a control, and the guy said, okay, go straight, go left, and I passed, like, you know. And then I didn't drive for like a year or two. This is way back. This is like when I was like 19, 20 years old. And I bought a car. And the car I bought was actually Khon's neighbor's car. It was a Galen. It was a 2-ton, like, it's a weird storyline. Somehow, back then, 20 years ago, I bought Khon's neighbor's car. And I got in the car, like, okay, I have a license, but I kind of knew how to drive. I sat in the car and I drove. PJ, Asunta, I was going straight, and I just went over the divide, over the roundabout,
Oh.
because as a first time driver, I was like going straight road 50, corner 50, everywhere with the same speed. There was no modulation of going corners must slow down, so I learned on the first day I drove my car, like, around corners you need to slow down. They didn't tell me in driving school. But yeah, and then you learn. Then you learn. But yeah, it's it's because you buy a supercar, it doesn't mean you can go around corners at high speeds. And
Correct.
that's what I
Correct.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. We'll play that video again, and at the end of the video.
So remember, rotation is fast. Too much drifting is slow.
Yeah, rotation
Correct.
is fast. Too much lifting is slow.
So how do you rotate the car? So what does it mean by rotation of a car? So rotation of a car is being able to move the car without forcing it too much. Okay. So if you are going around a corner and your wheels have to turn so much to try to make around the corner, you are forcing the car. So the car means the car will understeer, right? So you need to be able to get a gentle angle so that the car moves to the desired arc that you want. So to do that, you need to be very smooth with your steering input, your braking input, and your turning input, and then getting back on the power. That all has to be smooth. That's called rotation of a car. Being able to use your brakes, influence the weight over the front wheels, and then get your steering to turn so that your car then reacts to it. Yeah. So that is that.
Bobby shared what's this your roundabout. I'm not sure what roundabout this is. I think it's Asunta roundabout, But yeah, I'm honest, it's like this was
Bobby,
but this was 20 odd years ago, Bobby. So like it's way back,
Thana, now I recall my scariest moment,
Okay.
Now I recall because it was so bloody long time ago, now I finally remember. I can remember actually in my early days of driving, I think I must have been 18 or 19, and I was bombing on the federal highway, on the Ford Cortina 2-liter, and it was one of my friend's father's car, the Kia. At the time, them gang home, I just got license and all that. Okay, so there was a Mazda that came along, and I think it was a Capella RX2. And at that time, I do not know what the horsepower is like, that Ford Cortina. But once you floor it, the second throttle opens, on the Webers, so it was pushing out some nice horsepower, and there is this long band just before where the arch is, I think at that time I was in fourth gear, flooring the car. I was doing about 160, and I think there were about 6 of us in the car, and the rear end started to go. The rear end started to move out. We counted, and then I lifted off, and then still on the gung-ho throttle again, the tail comes out again. So everybody in the car was shouting like crazy, But those were the days, and we came out of it unscathed.
And I think
so that was, I think, my first oversteer.
And I think having cars that are not so competent as a first car is good, because then you tend to know how to control when it's wet. I noticed that personally, I will come to a zone whereby if I'm losing control or something happening, accident, whatever, I've avoided them, because come to a moment you are very clear what you got to do, because you're used to the car. Losing control, like you're driving fast, I turn the steering, how come no grip? Okay, I better relax, slow down. No grip, because we had replicas back then, unlike now,
Yeah,
so we got some comments here. Bobby is showing some stuff which I can't really show. I'm not sure what this is.
What, flying another roundabout in daytime?
Yeah, I'm so keen to click on the link, but I'm scared a new lady will show up on screen.
Guys,
Okay,
am I very laggy, guys?
no, it's fine. I think it's fine. Yeah. So we got Con here.
Fine,
For me, drive 50K car or 200 car around Sepang, also no difference. Too slow to make a difference. Con, you need training, Con. That's all it is, When's your next training session? I think, Mike. Ivan. I know you do that yearly sessions for. Is it only with BMW or is it like open to public?
Mostly for BMW.
I see.
BMW normally has this about 6 to 8 days a year.
Mm.
So normally we are working on those days to what do you say, teach as many participants as we can during that year.
Mm.
So, but it's a very expensive affair. The problem is even when you use the car park in Sepang, it's like a 5-figure rental a day.
For the car park.
And that's just yeah. So just a car park only, and we need like 3 car parks. So, and then you have the food, and then you have the cars provided by BMW. So it's not really a money-making exercise for the company. And then with our fees and the event organizers' fees. So they do it mostly for marketing because they believe that their cars, and I also believe that their cars are good enough to be able to speak for themselves. So people who normally come are mostly BMW owners, but they always try to encourage non-BMW owners to come and experience it themselves.
So the Bobby here, Ivan Khong Sepang Track Day events are the best. No idea what companies want to hire them. Yeah, I know it's a fantastic time on Sepang. I mean, if any of you have been blessed enough to enjoyed it, I think it's a wonderful experience. It's sad in Malaysia. I think the whole track day events and cars and that scene is not so active. But if you go to Sepang, there's a lot of car parks empty, isn't it? But they don't make use of it.
It's expensive to rent them. Yeah, I mean, there are car parks that are out there that are cheaper, but you want to be inside where it is more controlled. So yeah, cost is always an issue.
Yeah. So we'll go to the next video here, and this talks about, I believe this is the
front-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive, I think so.
Move on to the most popular drivetrain on the planet, front-wheel drive. But if rear-wheel drive is what God intended cars to be, how come front-wheel drive is so popular?
Because they're cheaper
it's
to
less
make.
complicated, cheaper to build, and the powertrain doesn't invade the cabin, giving you more room for your friends in a small package. Its biggest dynamic advantage is the powertrain mounted over the front wheels, giving better traction in slippery conditions. Rear-wheel drive is what God intended cars to be. How come front-wheel drive is so popular? Well, it's less complicated, cheaper to build, and the powertrain doesn't invade the cabin, giving you more room for your friends in a small package. Its biggest dynamic advantage is the powertrain mounted over the front wheels.
So this talks about the weight itself, Ivan. So how much, like, I know obviously if it's a rear-wheel drive, you've got your diff in the back, but I guess the diff in the back, it won't be as heavy as an engine, isn't it? I mean, to give you that weight on that tires.
Okay, so it comes to packaging that if I can concentrate the weight and the gearbox over the front wheels, then I have more space in the cabin for the passengers, and I don't need to have a transmission hump, right? That extends all the way from the front all the way to the rear to allow the prop shaft to go through. So then I can have a relatively flat floor, and then I get a bigger in-cabin, I get longer leg room, I have bigger boot space. It's cheaper to make because there are less components. Do you know that a 4-door car actually costs more to make than a 2-door car? Only in Malaysia that importers or manufacturers would sell a 2-door car more expensive than a 4-door car, because a Golf R in Europe that has got 2-door or 4-door, Golf GTI, okay, so the 4-door will cost more than the 2-door. Only in Malaysia that the local manufacturer or importers, they try to uh, take advantage of the situation, being that two-door car is more premium, therefore they want to sell the two-door car more expensive. But actually, Golf R, when it was sold in Malaysia, the Mark 7, the two-door was cheaper than the four-door. And so Volkswagen was one of the few manufacturers that actually sold cars that were proportionate according to how much they produce instead
Actually
of
worth
how much they want to mark up on. Correct.
Is it because of trying to make the body stronger? Is that why the four-door is
No,
costlier?
the four-door, you can make four doors, you can make four handles, you
Yeah.
can make
So
four power
four
steering,
seats. Yeah.
power windows. Yeah, you got the locks, the trim. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just a matter of more doors mean more expensive to make.
Correct.
More
Correct. Correct.
components are
Okay.
basically to build the car.
Okay.
Yep.
This plays a lot.
Giving better traction in slippery conditions. But front drive isn't all cherry, and this is a good time to explain it on the Tire Rack Minute. Front-wheel drive can be a real detriment to the pursuit of fast lap times. Those poor little front tires have got to do almost everything. The acceleration, the steering, and most of the braking. At the track, when two tires are asked to do too much, they get hot, and that heat causes premature wear and slower lap times. Another problem turns up in one of the classic traits of a front-wheel drive car, torque steer. Torque steer happens when torque from spirited acceleration pulls the car to one side. It's a byproduct of the front wheels being asked to do too many things. But that is not front-wheel drive's worst offense. That happens when you win, because then you'll be doing the world's lamest victory donuts. Boring! Wait, I got it. Front drive, as you might expect.
Yeah, one day I must try that. Try doing the reverse donut. I'm gonna try it. Yeah.
So like what Randy said, when the front tires have to do two things at one time, you have to do the steering and you have to do the powering and the braking. So you have to share the traction. And what happens when you do too many things with the same wheel? The tire starts overheating. Yeah. So then that begs the question: how does the Civic Type R then get to be able to lap the Nürburgring at such a low lap time? I mean, so fast, being one of the fastest front-wheel drive cars when it was first launched. It's because of the weight. The weight of the Civic Type R is definitely lighter than the weight of let's say an M2, right? Or any. So the weight, the balance, and then one of the secrets of the Civic Type R is the knuckle design over the front wheels. So the suspension design has been optimized, which was first seen in the Ford Focus. It's called the Revo knuckle, REVO knuckle. So what happens is that then you don't get the powerful front wheel drive phenomena, which is the torque steer. So, but that's the problem then with front wheel drive. You cannot boost or put too much power still over the front wheels, because at some point you won't be able to, as if you put 2,000 horsepower in or let's say even 500 horsepower in a front wheel drive car. By the time you finish the acceleration, your tires will be so hot you won't be able to take the first turn coming up. You understand? Because the tires have been overheated already. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, correct. So why if you look at up to the Mark 6 GTI, Volkswagen GTI, power was kept to roughly 220 horsepower, because there was a theoretical limit of 120 to 150 horsepower per wheel, right? So on the Golf R, then they have four-wheel drive, then they could boost it to way more than that. Yeah. So it's because of, if you put too much power over the front wheels, by the time you finish accelerating out of a turn and you want to turn to the next turn, the tires are just too hot. You cannot turn.
Because I guess even when the tire gets hot, the brake gets hot, because it's all in that same
Yeah, correct,
area.
correct. Yeah. But then you notice that the Civic Type R then don't come with 18-inch wheels. Most of them come with 20, I think. I think they
Yeah,
come with 20, yeah.
yeah, the
Because
latest
of
ones.
the
Yeah.
yeah, because of the bigger the diameter, so if I have a contact patch that's here that is touching the ground and I overheat it, then the tire takes a longer time to be able to come round.
I
So
see.
this is the cooling part, and then it gets heated up again, right?
Yeah.
So if you put a 16-inch wheel on the Civic Type R, you won't be able to turn or power after the first few minutes of hard driving because there's not enough cooling by the rubber to be able to give you the kind of traction that you want. That's why the car comes with 20-inch. Yeah.
But I also
Cannot
seen like,
dissipate the head.
yeah, I've just seen like front wheel drive cars that do very well in Sang also. So I think that is
Sure.
not to say that rear wheel drive is the king.
Mostly due to the weight. Mostly due to the weight. So if you see the race cars that are out there, like the FD2R, the Integra DC5, they are running like 900 kilos. So, or the
Mm.
Satria, they are running at 900 kilos compared to, so let's say a rear wheel drive BMW that's weighing that 1,600 kilos. So you're looking at almost a 50% weight deficit compared to
Yeah.
their cars.
And I guess the concept of to rotate those light cars is much easier because I
Correct.
guess
It's less
it's a short
inertia.
it's a
Yeah.
short wheelbase. It's easier to turn. It's lighter. Not much
Correct.
of a concern.
Yeah.
Less
But one
less
thing
weight
that
to carry around.
correct.
Mm.
One thing the front wheel drives suffer is weight imbalance. On the front
Mm.
wheels, they normally carry up to about 70% of the vehicle's weight, and
Mm.
then the rear is only about 30%.
Mm.
So you get that kind of imbalance whereby then your front tires are then more overworked because you got more weight to carry
Mm.
compared to the kind of power that you have to produce, yeah, and the steering that you need to share traction with. So yeah, I wouldn't say my daily driver is a front wheel drive car. I drive a
Mm.
Polo GTI daily,
Mm.
yeah, but I'm not racing with it all the time. Mm.
Mm.
So I just drive it normally like a normal car. I like it because it's
Yeah.
light, it's good fuel consumption. I've got good packaging. I know I got space. You know, so
Yeah.
it's light, it's nimble. I don't. If I want to have serious driving, then I'll just going to want my other cars. Yeah, but
Yeah.
daily driver, I think, and you want to have a bit of fast, fun. If it's only your one car, yeah, front wheel drive is fine. Yeah, but doesn't mean that you cannot go and try to learn how to drive a rear wheel drive car or even try to do a bit of drift control. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
John Kelvin say he wants to sign up his wife. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll just wait for next BMW driving session on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see the clip there.
Responds to acceleration quite a bit differently than rear drive. Adding throttle in a rear drive car can kick the tail out, but in a front drive car, with the wheels pulling from the front, it will do the opposite and straighten the car. The best technique for getting around a corner quickly is to start with a trail brake and put weight on the nose. Then aim for a late apex. If you start to get off throttle oversteer, begin adding power to balance and straighten the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's a very distinct difference between how to control a skid in a rear wheel drive car and a front wheel drive car. So if the rear wheel drive car rear goes into a skid, you just reduce. So you're going to skid is because the rear tires traction have been overwhelmed. So you need to either reduce the power to bring the traction to where the limit is so that you can get traction, or you basically just lift off the throttle. Yeah. So in a front wheel drive car, because you are doing the pulling, if the
Mm.
car rear steps out, you actually need to power to bring the front to pull the front so that the rear will just follow.
Okay, and I guess it's a very counterintuitive way of regaining control, isn't it? I think that's the
Correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So to control a slide, oversteer slide in the front wheel drive, you actually need to add more power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to some comments over here. Okay, we've got obviously Brian Williams here, who says, "What type of tires are able to sustain high temperature?" Or is that the way you should look into this? Getting higher temperature bearing tires, or you should be looking into driving the car better.
Yeah, I would think that trying to drive the car better is easier on the pocket because tire
Yeah.
able to sustain high temperature. Um, there aren't any because once a tire has gone through a particular heat cycle, the grip available on the tire, the compound changes, the rubber compound
Mm.
changes, and the grip available on the tire then gets
Mm.
reduced over time because it gets oxidized. So
Yeah.
in top echelon of racing or even gymkhana, even though it's only a 1 minute run in the
Mm.
course, but the
Mm.
top teams like the tire from the tire manufacturers,
Mm.
every time they run, it's a fresh set of tires. Every 1.5 minutes, they change tires because the tire would have overheated and then it won't be able to. The friction has changed, the traction has
So,
changed.
so are we saying that it's not so much the layers of the rubber, the tire, but as it heats up, the rubber just changes to a different
Yeah.
compound. So it's
Correct,
like old tires against new tires. Like the older tires you keep, the rubber are
correct.
not as grippy as new tires because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
best tires are fresh from the oven without any of the external layer. But those
Okay.
are really expensive.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next one here. We're going to talk about the my favorite, which I don't have at the moment.
All-wheel
Right.
drive.
Okay.
It can handle a lot like front-wheel drive on track, depending heavily on how power is distributed front to rear. The best part about all-wheel drive is you have all four wheels clawing you out of the corner. For the best technique, apex later than you would in a two-wheel drive counterpart. Let your tail slide and get on the throttle early. Nothing comes out of the corner as ferociously as an all-wheel drive car.
So
Yeah.
yeah, mm,
So if you go back to the where he takes a later apex, can you just replay that later
sure.
apex and let the car slide a bit?
We've done front.
1 second. Yeah.
So what does that leave us? How about all of the above? All-wheel drive. It's the best of both worlds, right? Well, yes and no. All-wheel drive adds stability and traction under power, but on the negative, also adds weight because of the extra components needed to drive all the wheels. The added weight makes the car slower and puts added wear on the components. Now that you know the ins and outs of each drivetrain, well, you'd better know how to handle each differently at the track.
Can you go
So
back to the where
yeah,
where he
1
did
second. 1
the
second.
cornering through the line and then there
Sure.
was
Yeah.
this one, correct.
Mm.
Yeah. 3
So
seconds.
if you see the red face is where he's doing on the straight, he always brakes on the straight, but he maintains a decreasing uh, uh, effort on the pedal pressure is because when you brake, you're putting more weight over the front wheels. But if you continue pressing the same amount of brake and you do the turn, what happens is that it then overloads the tires friction.
Mm.
So as you turn, remember the principle where you cannot power, you need to gradually
Yeah.
get on the power. This is where he gradually getting off the brakes. Because the more steering you put, you need to reduce your brakes so that more traction is used for steering than used for braking. I say when the tires are straight, you do your maximum braking. The moment you need to turn the steering wheel is when you gradually get off the. So you're 100%, then you're 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, or it's up to
Yeah.
zero. Yeah, correct. So So he needs to be able to do this to be able to get the tail to rotate. Because don't forget the rear wheel is also being driven. So when he lifts off the throttle, rear wheels are also slowing down, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to be able to rotate the car, you need to be able to brake and turn a little bit and slowly get off the brake so that the momentum of the yaw angle of the car starts turning, and then as you gradually get off the brakes, then the car shifts into that yaw angle as you go around, right?
And I guess
So
I always hear this like there's always a biasness of 60 40 50 50 in those cars, and right now I have a Jaguar here, my friend's Jaguar X-Type, and it has like a all-wheel drive system in the Jaguar with a just coupling, and it's 60 40, and at one point I think the tires were not even, and I noticed that when I was hammer the car on the road, I can feel the back will just lift and just push you, and it's like doing this on the road. It's a very funny feeling. So I guess on all-wheel drive cars, that the tire evenness is very important, isn't it? It's like it makes it
yeah,
hard
it's
to control.
because it's being powered. So imagine if you in a front wheel drive. Can we just finish the graph first?
Sure.
The picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as it turns in, he's gradually getting off the brakes because
Mm.
he's turning more, right? So you need to
Yeah.
get off the brakes. So you need to be able to transfer the cup that is on the braking
Mm.
to more for the steering for turning, right? So and then as it comes back out towards the straight, then you start seeing the green line getting darker and darker and darker. Meaning
Mm.
then as the steering wheel is being straightened, then he can put progressively more and more and more power up to 100% when you're almost straight.
Yep.
So brake reducing and then acceleration. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
play this back.
progressively.
See if we go back. As he enters, you can see here enters, and there's a graph which shows the braking force on this side, and then it
Correct.
goes, and then full
Yes.
brake, and then 100%, no gas, and then full gas, get out of there.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Why in this all-wheel drive graph, you see that he breaks into the corner a lot more because all-wheel drive car has problem turning into corners
Yeah.
more than so it's actually harder to get a all-wheel drive car to turn in
It's
because
almost
you are then
you can't skid lah. You can't skid. You can't rotate the car more on all-wheel drive car. Is that it?
because the drivetrain four wheels are being driven.
Mm.
Okay, front wheel drive car, rear wheel drive car, only two wheels are being driven. The other two wheels are freewheeling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so but this one you got four wheels turning, giving you active traction inside the corner. So that's why four-wheel drive cars are superior when it's wet conditions, when it's slippery conditions.
Ivan, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Because even four-wheel drives, you got the biasness of the four-wheel drive as well. Some are actually, manufactured from a front-wheel drive car, like the Golf R. All right. And then you have some like the BMW, yeah, you got the X series, yeah, where it's actually a rear-wheel drive, but they make it four-wheel drive as well, like the latest 340i lah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, the main difference between the two are that the X drive on the BMW, the center differential actively splits the torque between the how much traction available on the front wheels and the rear wheels, right? So it actively does that. Whereas a Golf R, which is mostly front wheel driven,
Yeah.
only when it's programmed, it then shifts power to the rear. So maximum power to the rear is only 50%. Whereas the BMW active power can go up to 100% rear or 100% front. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in certain conditions, when the rear wheels are over a patch of ice or mud, all 100% of the power is diverted to the front wheels. So it can become a front wheel drive. Or if the front wheels are over a slippery condition, then the rear wheels then become 100%. So that's one of the beautiful part of the X Drive. That's why
Nice.
if you have the opportunity to go and drive a, I think the latest hot cakes now is the M340i. All right.
Yeah.
If you take that and you drive that and you go around, let's say a twisty road like Genting, up Genting and down Genting, you find that the front wheels, the car doesn't feel like a four-wheel drive because
Mm.
the front wheels don't. Every time the steering wheel is turned, the computer starts adjusting more torque to the rear wheels to
Yeah.
help with the turning, which is what you need to do. Like the two cups again. As I
Yep.
need to turn more, I need to
Mm-hmm.
push more power to the rear
Mm.
wheels to
Mm-hmm.
unburden the front wheels from the burden of giving traction during the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, during
Mm.
powering.
Yeah.
So and then you compare to another German brand that has got the four-wheel drive configuration, and then you will find that the car doesn't have that smart torque distribution.
Yep.
Then it will just understeer everywhere. That's why,
Okay.
yeah, it's good to drive on wet and all, but I think in terms of enjoyment, uh, for me, rear wheel drive is still the best. But if I were to say, wife, you need to drive this 400 horsepower car to Alostar and it's pissing rain, yeah, just take the four wheel drive. Because to
Yeah.
her, it's just getting point A to point B in security, in safety, compared to me having fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
question from Bobby here. Why are all-wheel drives banned in racing? Why BTCC and IMCA banned Audi?
because Audi was too far ahead in the game. Audis made
Yes.
brilliant cars. The moment they came out with the quattro drivetrain, it just overpowered everybody. So imagine if you were running a 600 horsepower car and you only had rear wheels. You
Yeah.
essentially had to divide 300 horsepower to left wheel, left rear, and then 300 horsepower to right rear, right? So there's only so much that the tire can give you with that.
Mm,
But if you split 600 horsepower into four wheels, one wheel
Yeah.
only get 150 horsepower, you know?
mm.
So it's simple. There's no wheel spin. There's always traction, there's
Yeah.
stability.
Mm.
So
Yes.
that's why.
Yeah.
We're gonna go
But
to our
then
next
again,
clip.
I sorry, Thana.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah, because we are still at the all-wheel drive thing,
yeah.
because I noticed, of course, the new all-wheel drive and the old all-wheel drive is very different. You see, for instance, like your Subaru last time, those cars tend to understeer, right? I think, yeah,
Yeah. So
those
on
all-wheel
my
drive,
GC8,
yeah.
yeah, on my
Mm,
GC8, I had to do a lot of modifications, because the car tend
mm,
to understeer.
yeah,
But even in honesty, even the Evos had a lot of understeer.
mm, mm,
So I had to install on my first generation front. I had to install a center differential that sticks 70% to the rear wheels, 30% only to the front.
all right. Mm,
Yeah, so I could do donuts with it was so easy. Then so so there are certain tricks that we Gymkhana autocrossers do to make the rear, less
Mm,
sticky.
mm,
Things like putting a thicker anti-roll bar in the rear, but leaving the front standard, and that allow me to rotate the car easier. But if you
yeah,
were to drive the car in that configuration together with whatever changes I made to the tire pressures on, if you were driving at 30 kilometers per hour and you did a hard brake and you just turn the steering to the
mm,
right, you immediately spin
yeah,
180 degree because it is so undrivable on the road
mm.
that
yeah.
it is dangerous. Yeah.
Would you consider
So
putting a cheap tire in the front and a better tire in the back just to give you that differential on all-wheel drive?
depending on what you want to do, if your car understeers a
For
lot,
fun.
so you need to be able to put better tires in the front and cheaper tires in the rear. But
Yeah.
then you obviously had to beef up your own driving skill to be able to handle that, and then in a safe environment. Because in my Subaru, even though it's 400 horsepower, like 600 Newton at the engine, in a tight course, I cannot use third gear, because once I get third gear, there is so little traction over the rear wheels that the car will just spin. The moment I lift off, the car will just go into a spin. So depending on the cost, so if I see it's a high speed course, then I won't do that. You know, I won't make the rear so loose that it'll be so dangerous to drive. But I see it's only in the first gear. Everywhere is a first gear, 3 donuts, 180 degree, one yao zhao guai, everywhere you wanna go. Then it's only a first gear. Then yeah, to hell with it. I'm not gonna get faster than 30 or 40 kilometers per hour anyway, or 60 kilometers per hour. So yeah, so I will make the rear as loose as possible, tow out the rear, pressures to 65 psi, rear, decouple the front anti-roll bar and things like that. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason I asked that is because what happened is that I've been following some of the Evos and some of the Subarus up Genting, and I can easily follow them because they got problem turning in. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, especially the tight corners, they have to really slow down a lot. Yeah, correct. So,
Yes.
So a well-driven, talking about standard car, a well-driven rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive can keep up with the four-wheel drive car, because the four-wheel drive car are heavy, and then they got the drivetrain. If you don't have a very active center differential, you are not not nice to drive at all.
Yeah, a bit cumbersome lah.
Cumbersome,
yeah. Anyways, I think we, Thana, if you don't mind, highlight one question here from Robert King about all-wheel drive Golf R and A45.
Sure.
I think that is a very nice question lah. Because both are four-wheel drives. But I have driven them both. So has Ivan. I know which one tries a bit better at the corners lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Mark 7 or the Mark 8 is not here. So I would assume that the Golf R is a Mark 7 compared to the A45, which is the previous generation without the torque vectoring. Right. Okay. Now, after driving both, I bought the Golf R. So first of all, I just want to say that now. So I driven both and I bought the Golf R. And if you have seen Chris Harris' video, I totally agree with what he says on the Golf R. So what's the best way to drive them for corners? Very simple. Either one, you still need to slow down before the corner, right? Brake in a straight line, and then reduce your braking as you do the turn, and then completely lift off the brakes, and then go through the apex, and then progressively get on the power. Now you will find that the A45 will understeer more than the Golf R, because the A45, I think they call it the W176 chassis. Is it the 176?
Yeah, W176. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the W176. 176 chassis doesn't have the clever trickery of the torque vectoring, of pushing more power to the rear wheels and all that. So the Golf R is a sense. So that's why I bought the Golf R, because it was simpler, easier to drive. Yeah. So just brake before the corner, turn in. You won't drive it any different from the Subarus of today, because they essentially work the same.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
You shared a clip, a picture earlier, which is how to correct a slide: rear wheel, four wheel, and all wheel.
Yeah.
That was funny.
So this is a common misconception. This is a common misconception that we see a lot on internet. Rear wheel drive, you turn the slide and then you slow down. Basically, you just lift off the throttle. That's correct way to correct a slide. A front wheel drive is to turn into the slide, put on more throttle. That's correct. And actually, an all-wheel drive, you can either use the rear wheel drive or the front wheel drive. way of correcting. So it's actually very easy. So all-wheel drive gives you a higher tolerance or margin of error for you as a driver. So in the all-wheel drive, if the car gets in the slide, you can either correct and lift off the throttle, or you can correct and put on the power, right? But just imagine if you put on the power, you must be prepared for when the front starts pulling you, it does it quite sudden. So you need to be able to straighten the wheel very quickly. Yeah. So actually, the all-wheel drive is the easiest to correct. Yeah.
So Robert King says Golf R price will go up very soon after today.
Yeah.
So there was a time where I asked Mike Mike Yap to go and retune my Golf R. And then as usual, he took my car and said, take 2 days. Okay, I'll get it done. Then after that, 3 days come, then 4 days come. I call, hey, what's going on with the car? I thought you're done with it. Oh, I love driving the car so much that I kept the car
Actually, the Golf R is brilliant because it can be a really family car, and at the same time you want to have fun with it. It's there. It's just a fantastic package, and it rides well as well. The ride is really good. With the DCC. Yeah.
Okay, there's another clip I want to share here.
Yeah.
Doing a pendulum turn is to get the car to rotate all the way around a tight corner. As you start to get better at curing understeer and creating oversteer and sliding cars around, what you're going to find is there's a limit to kind of how far sideways you can get with your car, to the point where you need to be using the handbrake or throttle steering a rear-wheel drive car for more rotation, but just coming in fast and left foot braking isn't going to get you all the way around a hairpin turn. That's where a pendulum turn comes into play. So the idea is approaching a tight corner with a good head of steam on what would conventionally be the wrong side of the road. So you're on the left side of the road for a left or the right side of the road for a right. Well prior to the corner, you're going to want to lift, turn the opposite direction of the turn, and apply some brake. Enough to start scrubbing some speed and start creating some oversteer. This isn't going to work if you got ABS. It's not going to work if you got traction control and stability control and all that stuff. But if you're properly prepared for this situation, you'll get some oversteer in the opposite direction for the turn, looking for your apex, release the brakes and turn back. And all you've done is stored up some energy in that suspension so that when you turn back, it's going to snap back around and go rotating right around that tight corner the way that you want it to. Is that going to happen every time? Probably not. This is a more advanced technique, so hopefully you're good at left foot braking, you're good at your car control, you've been practicing some other stuff before you go out there and you start trying pendulum turns on narrow roads. You could definitely practice this at your rally crosses, some more open areas that are pretty safe. Come out here to the Team O'Neill Rally School and we'll do hundreds of pendulum turns until you're an expert at it. But definitely give it a shot kind of cautiously at low speeds, build it up as you go. As you add speed, start turning in sooner. Start this whole maneuver, earlier and earlier and earlier as you're coming in, and you might be braking longer and longer and longer and worried about shifting in your pendulum turns and everything else. But that's all stuff we cover here. Good luck out there.
I would love to have a place like that to go to in Malaysia.
Yep.
Ivan, you're unmute. You're mute, Mike. Ivan,
Ivan, you're
unmute
muted.
yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So Robot King can try that with his A45 or Golf R.
So nice, so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically what happened there was he was just trying to transfer weight from the front wheels to the rear to be able to get the car to rotate. So rotation of a car is the most important thing that you need to do in any driving. So whether you are driving on a track or a rally or gymkhana, rotation of the car. So you play with the brakes to be able to influence weight transfer, play with the steering to be able to get the kind of friction that you want, whether you are sliding or whether you are drifting or whether you are powering. So it's just basically all you're doing is just trying to rotate the car around corner. So all the while you're talking about steering, braking, you're just rotating the car. That's all.
And I guess on that pendulum term, is there an element of, again, I'm not sure, I'm asking a question, when you do, let's say the opposite, say you're going to go right and you turn left, but you're actually applying more pressure on the left, so you're more grip at the left. So when you go to the right, normally you are actually don't have any grip on the left hand side, but now you got a grip on both of the tires. I mean, there's this energy almost stored on the left side.
So why would you do a pendulum turn? It's because if you are coming at that kind of speed just now, like Subaru did, and you try to take that turn, just by merely turning the steering wheel to do it, you are not going to make that turn. You are not going to make the turn. So it is a matter of transferring weight not only to the front, but in the pendulum turn, you are transferring weight to the side. And then so that when the suspension then uncoils it up, you are then moving to the other side. Yeah.
You got the extra digging in power, all that happens,
Correct. So you're transferring weight from the right side of the wheel to the left side of the wheel. No longer on track driving where it's only front wheel to the rear wheel. On a Canadian flick or pendulum turn, you are doing from the right side of the wheel to the left side of the wheel. Yeah.
How I wish Malaysia had deserts or snow or places to go and just.
We got rubber estates and got palm oil estates.
But you got no, I guess, yes, that's called the Scandinavian flick. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So go to the next clip here. Let's see this. It's a nice how. Sure.
Yeah.
So you see that the rear is just stepping out a little bit, and then the front wheels are basically only pointing straight. You know why that is? It's because in a front wheel drive car, the greatest acceleration and the greatest deployment of power from the engine to the wheel is when the wheels are pointing straight. 100% of if let's say, especially when you do not have a LSD, okay, mostly this type of cars don't have LSD. The most power and able to deliver the power to the ground is when the wheels are straight. So when the wheels are turned slightly, you get less than 100% optimum, right? So what happens that he's using, so he may be touching the brake a little bit or just lifting off half throttle just to get the front wheels more traction. So that makes the rear wheel less traction and moves around. So you're just basically rotating the car. At the same time, he's back on the power and keeping the steering wheel as straight as possible. So any front wheel drive car that does not have an LSD, you need to keep the steering wheel as straight as possible when you power, because that gives you the greatest acceleration. All right. So yeah, full throttle. Yeah. So you can influence it by, if you are coming down the hill and you saw that it was a slight downhill, he's flat on the throttle because he's got so little power. What you can do is you can induce by steering a little bit to the direction of where you want to travel and just using your left foot touch the brakes. So what happens is that the rear, which is undriven, will start locking up a little bit. So what happens is the car starts rotating around the direction that you want to, and then you keep the power on, because if you lift off after that, the car will just instantly spin. So you need to be able to keep the power on, like a front wheel drive slide. You steer into the slide, or you stay in the opposite of you stay into the slide, and then you get on the power. So because his slide is so little, he's hardly steering steering. You hardly see his steering wheel moving.
You're using what normally is a sign of losing control, but I guess to rotate the car into the point you want to go to.
Most race cars do that. So the method that you know that you are driving fast on the track is when your steering wheel is straight most of the time, and then you're not turning into the turn. That means before the turn, you are either on the brakes and you are very little on the steering. And then the moment the car starts rotating, you are already on the power. So you can go around turns with steering wheel almost straight. That's because that's when you get the most power.
Yep.
Yes.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we don't think about it, but think about it. You know, imagine all throughout the track you're going straight, using things like braking and weight transfer of the car, things like when you apply brakes and when you accelerate, all those things put together, or even planning out your turn itself, your line and left or right. That kind of push the car and you're going somehow straight. Amazingly.
So anytime you drive in any corner, in anywhere, you're driving in Uluyang, you're driving on the track, you're driving in the Gymkhana, there's always planning. You always plan what to do. You must always plan. It's like when you walk, you need to plan. So you need to plan your path. You need to see where you need to go. You need to be able to steer towards that. So there's always planning in driving. So anytime I drive, there's always planning what I want to do in this corner, what I want to do after the corner. Shall my tire be on the left side of the road, or shall my tire be 1 foot away on the line, or where it needs to be? So we need to do it, like I say, most efficiently with the least amount of effort.
We are coming to the last 5 minutes of our show because we're going to end at 5:30. And if you've got questions, guys, please go in the comment section and give us a comment. We got a question here from Mugilan. Why do most all-wheel drive cars get understeer?
Like I said, because the front wheels are doing the powering and the steering at the same time. So best car to turn is a rear-wheel drive car. Best car to power is a front-wheel drive car. Because when you power, your wheels are straight, right? Because front wheel, then because the engine is over the front wheels, so you get additional weight over the front wheels. Therefore, you can then power better. But then when you want to turn, you don't want the power to share the traction of the tire. So if the tire has to do two things, powering and turning, then he has to share the traction available for the two tasks. So therefore, if you are turning, you cannot power. But then, like you saw in the video, as the driver starts unwinding the steering wheel, that's when you can then start progressively getting more and more power until the steering is straight, 100%. So if you're doing like 20%, 30%, 40, 50, 100%. So braking is the same. So that's why you can, most all-wheel drive cars will understand because of that. So that, but you get cars like the M340i X-Drive, whereby the moment the car, the computer senses that you want to turn the steering wheel, it starts diverting power to the rear wheels.
It almost becomes a rear-wheel drive car because it can send 100% to the rear.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. We got a question here from Ivan. Ivan looks like Jackie Chan from Fighting with his hand gesture. Why is that, Ivan? Please explain us. Okay.
Yeah.
We got a question here. How to register for advanced driving skill classes, I guess.
Yeah, there are many available, but I would suggest you start with the basics of, because if you sign up for a course that is too advanced, then you won't be able to grasp the basics. So like BMW, they would have you pay, I think, 1,888 or 1,900. It's a one-day course. You get to drive a car, share with a partner, and we teach you the basics, how to control a car. So like what to do, how do you hold the steering wheel, how do you sit, where do your eyes look. So all these need to be trained before we go to the second course, which is 70% on the track itself. So if you were to say that, Ivan, I want to become a race car, or I want to drive like me, like I want to be like Ivan. There's a hashtag always. I want to be like Ivan.
Yeah.
And
Hashtag.
just by taking a 1-day course is not going to cut that, because I'm old, so I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of driving time, driving seat. So a
Yeah.
lot of seat time in many different cars. So you need to be able to, yeah, it's not an impossibility, but it is a longer process than a 1-day or 3-day course, because there is many things that you need to learn. So as you
Yep.
progress faster and faster and better, then I can teach you more and more things. Because if you want to, if you study, let's say physics, you want to have a physics. If I start teaching you a PhD course when you haven't even grasped basic first year university course, then you're not going to be able to understand, because there are so many concepts that you won't be able
Yep.
to absorb. So driving is like that. So I had a friend who attended many days of driving course in BMW, and he said, I want to drive like you. How do I drive like you? So I told him, you buy a car, a rear-wheel drive car that can switch off stability control. Best would be a M model. Then you need to do it every day. You need to be able to do a simple thing like a donut. Every day you need to practice. If you do not practice, you're not gonna do well. So he built his own car park. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, a bit more money lah. So he built his own car park, and then he bought the car, and then invited me. Then I set up simple exercises, 2 cones enough, 3 cones. You just do a triangle, a donut. You come to another switchback, and then he does a figure 8. If you don't do this every day, you're going to lose it. So imagine if you take 1 day out of your whole life, you take 1 day course in BMW, and then you don't do whatever we teach you for the 1 whole year, and then you come back for the advanced course. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So you need to do it every day. So you just, if you can find a kappa and just do a control 180-degree or donut, yeah, that's what I suggest.
Yeah.
So I've always told Isaac
Isaac.
that
Isaac.
Isaac, you go and steal his father's BMW car key, go and find me, then I teach him all this. And every day you need to steal your father's car key and
Every
just
day.
do it. that might
No,
be
but
why my
he doesn't.
tires,
He doesn't have to steal it. He must maintain it and bring the car back in one piece. Yeah. That is
Okay,
far more important.
So to our 5:30 mark, very
Yep.
quickly again, Paulus Romanov saying, but front-wheel drive is worse on acceleration, cause weight transfer to the back.
Not really. Now this is a very popular misconception, because they say front wheel drive is worse on acceleration because the weight transfer to the back, hence you lose traction. But the weight of the engine is over the front wheels. Therefore, you have more traction than, say, compared to a rear wheel drive car. The only reason why acceleration could be worse is because your tires cannot take it. Your tires, you don't have enough traction over the front wheels. So that's why there's a theoretical limit of don't count the cars with the revo knuckle like the Ford Focus, the Renault Megane, or the Civic Type R. There is a theoretical, if you're just looking at normal McPherson Strat, you're looking at theoretical limit of 120 horsepower over the front wheel, one wheel. So maximum over 2 wheels is 240. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so we've come to an end of our show. Thanks for joining us. We've got still more questions over there. Drop them in. Feel free to discuss in the comment section. Again, join us again next week. As always, we just come here at Lepak Tea Time on Sunday to talk about cars. If you want to know more about DNA Tuning, please head over to dnatuning.my on Facebook, on YouTube. The phone number is below there. Everybody in this picture here, including Mike also, I know I have tuned the cars with my cars with Mike, tuned with DNA Tuning, so does Ivan. It's a great place to be to tune your cars for ECU, and they also do things like special tunes, which are pretty awesome. Again, anything else, Mike, to end the show?
Nothing much else. You guys stay safe. And join us on our next episode next Sunday.
Yeah, and keep burning tires.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Ivan, for joining us.
You're welcome. All right, guys. See you.
All right, guys.